Hello there, everyone. Hello, Dublin. Good evening. It's great to be here. Wow, look at this crowd. It's wonderful to be here at the JD, beautiful store in the heart of Dublin. I'm Ariel Helwani, here hosting a very special edition of After Hours. It's a very special fight week, of course. It's the big Katie Taylor homecoming. Yes. No one wants to hear from me. Let's say hello to these fine gentlemen. Let's say hello to Irish boxing royalty. The former WBO world middleweight champion, the great Andy Lee, is here. Of course,
thank you.
Champion turned trainer now, and he has a fighter on Saturday's card that we will talk about. You know this man. He is the diva. He is going to be, in very short order, the face of Irish boxing. He is a superstar in the making. He is also competing on Saturday in the co-main event against Jose Felix. He is the one and only Gary Cully. Hello, Gary. I mean, just look at him. He looks like a freaking star, right? I mean, that is a star. The pink shirt, the tattoos, I love everything about it. And this man needs no introduction. He is the promoter for Saturday's event. He is the face of Matchroom. He is the chairman of Matchroom. He's the one and only Eddie Hearn. We've been having a debate all day long. Who's more popular in Dublin, me or Eddie? I think that just proved that I am more popular.
Of course, hold on. And I guess
Eddie
we
Hearn.
should also say as well, a big welcome from the United States to a legend of combat sports broadcasting, because it's no longer MMA, it's boxing and everything. We're very honoured to have the great Ariel Helwani here with us.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
You hear that? That is quite the pop. Thank you so much. Thank you, Eddie, and thank you to everyone for being here. It is a great, great time to be in Ireland for such a great event. Now, I want to start with you, Andy, because, you know, you've been fighting here for a long time. You are from here. You had to travel the world as well. And, you know, one thing that Katie said earlier today, which I think spoke to Eddie, spoke to myself, spoke to anyone who's a fan of Irish boxing, she is bringing back big-time boxing to Ireland. It's been quite some time since we had a big event here in Ireland. For someone who is from here, who represented this nation all across the world, what is it like that it's finally back, big-time boxing in Dublin, in Ireland?
To be honest, I think this will actually be the biggest fight to take place in Dublin. I know there were some great nights here at Bernard Dawn and back a long ago myself even, but Katie, just with her journey, you know, turning pro, fighting all over the world and being recognized all over the world, not being able to fight at home, but finally now getting the chance, it's made it even bigger. Say if she had a debut here in Dublin, or has fought throughout her career here in Dublin, it wouldn't have been, nothing would be as big as this. This homecoming's been long anticipated, long waited for. You can see the crowd here and the crowd today at the public workout. And even though she's probably wanted to, there's been a will for her to fight here, the fact that she hasn't been able to has made it all, has risen the demand for it. And like from the top of the bill all the way through, there's Irish interest, and with Gary Cully on the show, the likes of Dennis Hogan, Paddy Donovan, Thomas Carty, Onwards Queven as well. You know, it's a feast of boxing for Irish sports fans. It's long overdue, and it's just good, and so good of Matchroom to bring it, because there's no one better to do it.
Gary, I was here just once before. It was in July of 2014 at the 3 Arena for Conor McGregor's first UFC fight and only UFC fight in Dublin. And I say time and again, it's the greatest atmosphere that I've ever experienced. And I also saw what that card did for the likes of Paddy Houlihan, what it did for Gunnar Nelson, what it did for Cathal Pendred, his teammates, other Irish fighters or fighters who trained in Ireland, what it did for their careers to be on that card. Have you been able to wrap your head around what Saturday will mean for your career to be the co-main event of, as Andy put it, perhaps the biggest card in the history of Irish boxing, right underneath arguably the greatest Irish boxer of all time, Katie Taylor? You're a young up-and-coming fighter. Have you even been, you know, started to put your head, you know, wrap your head around how special all of this is?
Not really, to be honest with you. I'm trying to stay focused. I'm trying to not get too involved in all of that. But this is special. Like, this is home. Thank you first of all for everybody for coming out here. This is JD in Dublin, where I'm in here every week shopping. Like, you know.
Didn't get those glasses in there.
I just like to say shout out to Frank Smith, because I had them in my pocket and he said they look so good on me that I had to come out and wear them on the show. So shout out Frank Smith. But nah, this is home. This is special. And every press conference, every kind of interview in the lead up to this, I've been saying shout out to Katie because this is mad. We've grown up. I remember being on the Irish high performance team with Thomas and Keevan. Paddy Donovan obviously growing up behind us as well. He was a little bit younger, but we were on youth teams, junior teams growing up when Katie was a senior, and we would have trained in the high performance unit, watching her going out winning world gold medals, European gold medals, and she's forged the way for us all. She's been giving us opportunities for the last 15 years, and she's still doing it to this day, and it's special. She's a special person, and shout out to her because she's been, like I said, giving us all massive opportunities. This is going to be a huge night for me and a huge night for my career, and I have Katie to thank for that. So, yeah.
Everyone was a little bit devastated, Eddie, when we found out that Amanda Serrano withdrew. And everyone thought maybe this whole dream would go up in smoke and we would have to wait a little longer. What was your reaction when you found out from Katie that she not only wanted to remain on this date, she didn't want to just fight any opponent, she wanted to fight at 140 to go for the undisputed title against arguably a tougher opponent in Chantelle Cameron?
Yeah, I think my first reaction when Serrano pulled out was it's rescheduled. But, Katie had May 20th in her mind for so long in Dublin that she just felt that we had to make it happen. There were two options, really, Alicia Baumgardner and Chantelle Cameron. People have thought for a long time that Katie wouldn't fight Chantelle Cameron. But I always knew that when the fight was big enough, she'd fight anyone anyway. But all of a sudden, she did something that she never does, which was to call for it on social media. It's hard enough to get her to put a tweet out or post anything on Instagram. Next thing I've woken up and it was, I want to fight May 20th. I want to fight Chantelle Cameron. Make it happen, Eddie Hearn. And from there, you always need two fighters willing to fight. Think about this, right? You got a situation here in boxing where an undisputed champion at lightweight was fighting an undisputed champion at featherweight. The undisputed champion at featherweight pulled out, and 24 hours later, she's fighting the undisputed champion at light welterweight. It just doesn't happen. And it's so refreshing to see in boxing, in women's boxing, these fighters willing to step up and be in the biggest fights. I've never met anyone so driven, never met anyone so stubborn, never met anyone so determined as Katie Taylor. She's an absolute inspiration, and you see the difference today. Some people are liked, some people are disliked. There is only love for Katie Taylor. She's the purest of souls, but she's the brutalist of warriors. And she is ready to go to war on Saturday night. She fears no one. She believes she has the beating of Chantelle Cameron. But on Saturday night, you have two undisputed, unbeaten fighters. And also, remember one thing. Katie Taylor is the challenger on Saturday night. We know she holds the belts, but she's stepping up to challenge the champion. And this is unquestionably the toughest fight of her career so far.
I've heard people, Andy, say that this is a 50-50 fight. I've heard people say Eddie shouldn't have allowed her to take this fight. Brian Peters, her manager, shouldn't have allowed her to take this fight. It's too risky. This was going to be the coronation celebration again. She could have fought a broomstick and sold out the 3 Arena. Could you be as unbiased as possible, perhaps put your analyst hat on? How do you see this fight playing out? And do you agree with some people who say, perhaps this is a little too risky, Chantelle is just a little too tough for her?
I agree with it, yeah. It's a fight I could very well see. I could see Katie losing the fight. If she gets involved, stands her feet and trades, which she's what she's like to do. Katie is a supreme boxer, the greatest female fighter of all time. If she stands and fights Cameron, she could very well lose, because Cameron will be coming. She can box herself, Cameron, but as she said in the press, she's going to come this fight. She's going to come and press forward and let her hands go. And Katie can outbox her, dance and move, sidestep. But when it's put up to Katie, and this is why we love her, she wants to stand and fight, to her own detriment sometimes. And she'll get involved. And we saw her time and time again with Persoon, with Serrano. She gets involved. And in doing that, in 2-minute rounds, it can go so quickly. Before you realize it's round 8 and you've only got 2 more to make a difference. But in saying that, 2 fights are referenced, Persoon and Serrano. Katie found a way to win. When she had to dig deep, which she probably will have to do Saturday night, she found a way to win. And I back Katie to do it again on Saturday.
I have often said that the 2 best weight classes in boxing are 135 men, 135 women? Because it seems like the 135 men don't care. They're going for the biggest fight. You know, Devin Haney fighting Lomachenko. We saw Tank Garcia. I know it wasn't exactly at 135, but close enough. And the women, right? Katie Taylor saying, you know what, screw this, I'm going up to 140. As a fellow 135er, how do you feel about this decision on her part?
Yeah, like knowing Katie throughout the years, throughout the amateurs, knowing what sort of person she is. She's a champion. She wants to prove she's the best. She proved she's the best at 135. So she had an offer to go to 140. Didn't even have an offer. She made the offer, I suppose. And wanted to go up and prove she's the best up there. And I believe she'd do it. She'd go up to 147. She'd go up to 154. She's a fighter. She wants to fight, and she wants to prove she's the best. And that's why she's so loved, and that's why she's so good, I believe.
And I want to let the crowd know that we'll be taking some fan questions. There's going to be a meet and greet afterwards. Eddie is also going to be giving out 2 tickets to Saturday's fight, so stay tuned for that as well. I know it's been a hard ticket to grab. In fact, you told me something pretty remarkable about Saturday's event regarding the business that is happening on Saturday. Do you mind sharing that with the people?
No, I know that obviously we wanted this fight at Croke Park. You know, we wanted 60,000. We ended up with 8.5, and we did have to price it quite expensive at the top end because both girls wanted to be well rewarded for this fight, and rightfully so. But this fight, this show, is officially confirmed as by far the biggest grossing event in the history of the Free Arena. And I think when you look at the acts that have been there and the shows that have been there, to see that record smashed by Katie Taylor just shows you the draw of this woman, and rightfully so. She's getting everything she deserves in her career. I
think everyone still wants to see the Serrano fight, hopefully at Croke Park one day, the rematch, of course. Does she have to win on Saturday to keep that dream alive?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if she loses to Chantelle Cameron, you know it's going to be an absolute war. All of a sudden, you'll probably see Taylor Cameron too. You know, these fights, Taylor, Cameron, Serrano, Baumgardner, you can see 1, 2, 3, so many of them. But, you know, right now, the Serrano fight is a distant thought, honestly. It's just about the fight on Saturday night.
You are coaching and training. You want to say something?
I was just going to ask Eddie, how do you promote both fighters? You're here in Dublin, obviously, but how do you stay neutral? It must be incredibly hard.
I hate it because, you know, I've had it before where, you know, Callum Smith boxed Rocky Fielding, Dimitri Bivol boxed Canelo Alvarez. You know, I represent both fighters, and the one thing I love to do more than anything is stand up, especially in Dublin. You know, that's why if it was Serrano, you would have seen me in the ring and jumping around, but, you know, you have to respect your position, and we've provided this opportunity for both. And there's 2 tales in this story. You know, one is Katie Taylor coming home to become a 2-time, 2-division undisputed world champion, the greatest female fighter of all time. And on the other tale is Chantelle Cameron, which I think would be recorded as one of the greatest wins by an English or British fighter, you know, for a long time in the modern era. To come to Ireland and beat Katie Taylor in her backyard would be a massive win. So I've kind of, you know, I'd rather just have one fighter in the race, but I'm proud of both of them, and it's going to be a special fight.
It's like we keep saying this is such a hard fight for Katie, but on the other foot, Chantelle Cameron's got to come to Katie's backyard and fight the greatest female fighter of all time. So, like, hats off to both of them, but it's incredible.
That's what Katie's like. You know, Katie will respond and say, well, Chantelle Cameron says she's very strong. And she said, well, I'm strong too. She said, Katie Taylor, Chantelle Cameron says she likes to have a war. Well, I like to have a war too. You know?
She's humble. She's the nicest person you ever meet. But behind it all, there's a competitor there. And even, like, she's come home sometimes and we've done some bits in the gym, and I'll have Paddy or the boys doing leg circuits or arm circuits, and she's trying to go, like, you know, these guys are doing it every week, so they're used to it, but she's first in the door and trying to beat them and compete with them, you know, so yeah, she's got that grit.
By the way, for Canelo Bivol, I believe you were Team Canelo and Matchroom CEO Frank Smith was Team Bivol.
Yeah.
This time around, are you picking sides again? Are we doing that
I think,
bit?
You know, I think we have to be neutral. And
okay.
Katie's one of my all-time favourites, but, you know, Frank Smith got some glory that night. It was nice to see. It's, you know, it's good to see the work experience boys getting a bit of justice.
If there are people out there, Gary, who have yet to see you fight, how would you compare your style? Would you compare it to someone? How would you describe it? Because, to be honest, just, you know, standing next to you, it's a sight to be seen. I mean, you're 6'2.5", 6'3", 135 pounds. I don't know if there's actual skin on your body that isn't tattooed, which is tremendous. I mean, you feel like a star. I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting next to you. And the glasses were tremendous. Great choice, by the way. For those that haven't seen you yet, I believe back in October when Katie fought, it was 35 seconds that you starched your opponent. What kind of fighter are you?
Yeah, Matchroom debut back in October was 35 seconds. Had my second fight then with Matchroom. Fought Wilfredo Flores back in February, won on a second round knockout. So I start fast, I'm explosive. For me, this is the entertainment industry. People have to be entertained, and people have to want to tune in and watch you fight, you know. So I believe I'm entertaining, I'm explosive. I grew up watching a lot of Paul the Punisher Williams back in the day, and he used to throw over 1,000 punches a fight as well. So I come with that high energy, that high punch output, and I come to fight. You know, we're the Fighting Irish here. We get behind our people, and we fight all over the world. And I'm coming to Dublin to fight, to put on a show, to entertain, and to get people excited. A
great moment. Prior to the fans coming in, we had a media Q&A, and Eddie was talking about Gary's fight on Saturday against Jose Felix. And Eddie said that, you know, he's looking forward to Gary getting some rounds in, and you couldn't see his face when you said that. I think Gary was a little offended that you said that. I don't think he liked that you are anticipating him getting some rounds in.
Could prove me wrong.
Yeah.
You know, he's done it so far. You know, we've brought these durable guys in, these unbeaten guys to face him. And like you say, he's starched them. But this opponent is renowned for going the distance with some high-quality world opposition. So if he stops him, it will be a hell of a statement. But, you know, I want everybody to get behind Gary Cully. He's about to tell me off again. I can feel it.
Yeah, you see
he hasn't been hit by this left hand yet.
No,
that's all.
Hit by that left hand.
Not you, Jose Felix.
Right, good. I was going to say that's why I sit the other side of the ropes. I've seen you punch.
That is going to be a scene. I'm very excited about Paddy Donovan, your guy. I was going to ask you just earlier. Tell the public, you know, another up and comer, another name that we're probably going to hear more of in the years to come, especially if more big events come to Ireland. Who is Paddy Donovan? What can people expect from him?
Paddy is a young guy from Ennis, Limerick. Boxing people in Ireland will know who Paddy Donovan is. He was one of the standout amateurs in this country, and turned pro with Top Rank. We had a great relationship with Top Rank, and I can't say a bad word about anybody there. They were fantastic to work with, but unfortunately they couldn't provide him with the fights he needed in his activity and development. So we got released, and thankfully Matchroom have given us an opportunity to box here on the undercard on the biggest stage. Paddy Donovan will be fighting around 5:30, so get in early, watch him. He's up against Samuel Mason, who's probably his best opponent, recently fought Dalton Smith. Paddy can punch. I hold pads for everybody. Joseph Parker, Tyson Fury, all of these fighters. And none of them hit as hard as Paddy, pound for pound. Paddy is... It's hard to get him sparring, never mind opponents. And he can box. And he's got a bit of flair about him, so tune in early, or get there early, and hopefully witness, after Gary, the next face of Irish boxing.
Yeah, Paddy, just want to jump in there, and Paddy is a special talent. You know, we've done some rounds of sparring, we've trained together, and he's got his moment like I got with Miguel Vasquez last year. He's got his Matchroom audition he's got to put on for Eddie, and he's going to put on a show, and I believe he's going to go in there and put on a show on Saturday night, and he's the next up and coming star, I believe, in Irish boxing after myself. So yeah, everybody who's going, get in early and have a look at him.
I think a lot of people are wondering if this is just the Katie Taylor show, or are we about to see, like we saw with the UFC after that Conor McGregor card in 2014, other shows, other events from Matchroom coming here that aren't headlined by her?
Yeah.
With the likes of...
Yeah. Like, what we love is to come to cities and places that have passion, love a great night out, love entertainment, make noise, produce great TV, great visuals, and great atmospheres and nights we'll never forget. And as far as I'm concerned, Dublin is like the #1 place for that. And it's amazing to think that World Championship big-time boxing is back in the city this Saturday. And the undercard's fantastic. You know, you've got Gary Cully co-main event against Jose Felix. You've got Terry Harper fighting Cecilia Brackhouse, you know, a legend of female boxing in a great fight. You've got JJ Metcalf against Dennis Hogan. It's going to be an absolute war. You've got Kevin Ajarko, who's a fantastic talent as well, another guy that could headline in Ireland. You've got Paddy Donovan. You've got a great heavyweight scrap between Thomas McCarthy and Jay McFarlane. You've got Maisie Rose against another talented female Irish fighter as well. It's a brilliant night of boxing, and I believe it's going to be the first of many back in this city.
Going back to Gary for a moment, how far away, if all goes well on Saturday, how far away are we from him in the conversation with the likes of George Kambosos, Shakur Stevenson, Lomachenko, Haney, those guys?
I mean, Kambosos is in a different league to those other guys, but I think he's 3 fights away from that level. This is the fight that we'll see. may give him rounds and give him that big night experience. Then we need one of those top 15 gatekeepers, you know. Jorge Linares can sometimes be a good example, but he's coming off some defeats. But he's the guy 6-12 months ago, you know, and it might be a George Kambosos. You know, he was supposed to fight Maxi Hughes on the. I mean, that's a good example. He was supposed to fight Maxi Hughes on this card. Maxi Hughes took less money to fight George Kambosos. That's how much people want to fight Gary Cully, you know. But we understand that because at the moment he's kind of like massive risk, low reward. But we need to build him into the star that people want to take chances. And I also believe that he can win world championships at 135. And I think he will move to 140 in time as well. And when he does, we're going to have Regis Prograis. We might have Matthias. You know, we've got Jack Catterall. We've got loads of fighters at 140 as well. But the next fight after Saturday for Gary Cully is one of those top 15, top 10 guys to prepare him for all the big names that you mentioned.
Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, 100%. I think I've fought 8 rounds once. I've fought a couple of 8 and 10 rounders, but I've went to 8 round distance once. You know, people seem to forget that. I've been getting in and putting big performances on and knocking people out early, but I haven't really gained that experience, I suppose. You look at the likes of Devin Haney fighting against Lomachenko at the weekend, and he's 27, 28 and 0 or something like that. You know, went the distance numerous times, 12 round distance. So I believe I have to go the distance maybe a couple of times. Hopefully not, fingers crossed. But go the distance, gain some experience, maybe 2-3 fights. But like I said to you earlier on, 2024, the start of 2024, that's the year I want to go over to the States and take on them big names.
Andy, could we get a little nostalgic here for a moment? Could we look back in the time machine? Favorite moment for you fighting here in Ireland? What's the moment? Perhaps, you know, it could be a fight that everyone thinks, or maybe it's one that's under the radar, so to speak. What comes to mind?
I think it was my first fight here. I fought for the Irish title against a guy called Jason McKay. Darren Barker fought him after me, yeah. So, and it was a tough fight, and he talked a lot of smack at the weigh-in and the press conference, and I was shocked because I was this Irish Olympian who'd done it all, and he was just a good pro fighter. But I got a good win, and I stopped him in the end. But there's been some fantastic nights here. No one will forget the night Bernard Dunn beat Cordoba in the 3 Arena. Ireland had won the Grand Slam in the rugby earlier on in the afternoon, and everyone was packed in, and Bernard came back from the death to beat him and stop him in, I think it was the last round. But that has been, that's the last time there has been a big show here, really. He fought Punsenwad after that, but that was kind of the tail end of his career. I'm like you say, the first question you asked, I'm trying to think of the biggest night in boxing. Muhammad Ali fought here just over 50 years ago in Croke Park. He fought Albert Lewis, but that was more or less one of his fights when he was on the road. It was just a quick fight. They put it together, and he picked his own opponent, really. Albert Lewis was from Detroit, where I was based, so I kind of knew the background of the story. But like this fight on Saturday night is probably going to be the biggest boxing event in the Republic of Ireland of all time. Yeah, probably is. I don't know. Can you think of anything else?
I think we should just leave it at that because that's exactly.
No, that is the
that's
quote.
That's the soundbite I needed.
That is the quote. Let's go to the crowd here and take some questions from the fans. I believe we have someone with a microphone who will be traversing. Do I see the microphone? Oh, she's somewhere. All right, well, go ahead. Just say your name, where you're from, and who you want to ask a question to.
My name's Kane, right? One of the questions is, can I have one of Anthony Joshua's belts since he doesn't need them anymore?
Say again?
Can I have one of Anthony Joshua's belts since he doesn't need them anymore?
I think if you could achieve 100 millionth of what Anthony Joshua's achieved, you'd be a very happy boy.
I have another question. Do you reckon we're guaranteed to see Taylor fight in the O2 Arena?
Say that again, mate.
Oh, in Croke Park, sorry.
Yeah, I think, look, we really wanted to make that happen. I think that it's a night that would be remembered in Irish sport for a long, long time. It was expensive. It was 3 times the cost of Wembley. But, I understand business is business. But I'm pleased to be in 3 Arena. I think the Irish government and tourism, I got a bit of stick for saying I feel like they should be supporting her to go to Croke Park. The government spend money on sporting events all over the world. But they never spend money on boxing. Do you know what I mean? So for me, Katie's the kind of person that they should help out. But the problem with this weekend is you've got the rugby as well. So ultimately, it was a bad weekend for tourism. And we've seen the prices of hotels this week.
I was going to say, the stadium, I said, welcome to Dublin. Everything's expensive.
I know.
All right, who's next? Just. I don't understand. Believe it or not, my barber is myself, and I'm going to take that as a compliment that you are so impressed with my handiwork. Thank you very much. I used to pay top dollar, but now I just do it myself. Thank you for asking. All right.
How's everybody up there? My question's for Gary. Obviously, we're very excited about seeing Katie in the main event, but obviously you fought in Northern Ireland, Nottingham and London. What's it finally like to fight in front of a Dublin crowd, especially in the 3 Arena? And by the time the co-main event comes around, it's going to be absolutely nuts. And also, is one of your goals to main event in the 3 Arena, maybe early next year or later this year?
Yeah, like I said earlier on, like this is mad to me. I'm in this shop nearly every week. This is where I come up, get my hair cut. I have food here every week. This is home to me. You know, I fought in Belfast, but Dublin is home to me. I grew up 20 minutes from here in Naas and Kildare. Any big gigs I ever went to when I was a kid, growing up, going to concerts and stuff, were always in the 3 Arena. Growing up, seeing Bernard Dunn fight, the Cordoba fight that Andy mentioned a second ago, seeing that in the 3 Arena, and always having dreams of fighting here, and it's literally come full circle. Like I said, I'm sharing a card with Katie and also with 3 lads who I grew up going through the youth amateur system together. So I can't quite put into words how special it is. It's literally dreams coming true for me. My ring walk as well is going to be special for me. It's a dream come true. It's a live ring walk from a good friend of mine as well, and it's a dream come true. So it's special to be here, and I hope it's the first of many, many more nights coming back to Dublin.
Can you tell us more about that ring walk? Yeah,
so I'm from an estate
called... I didn't want to say, but it's you too, but don't tell
it. Wow.
I'm from an estate in Naas called Sarto Road. I grew up in number 81, and my friend grew up in number 75. Dan McCabe is his name. Sings Irish rebel music, and during COVID, during lockdown, he blew up on YouTube. We were in the same class in school together, and we had this dream when he goes on to do his thing in music and I go on to do my thing in boxing. He's going to sing me out to my big fight in Dublin. So it's literally a dream come true. He's singing me out on Saturday night, and it's going to be special for the both of us. So
that's incredible. Who is next? Go ahead.
My question's for Gary. What is the best piece of advice you got from a coach during your amateur years, and what advice would you give to a young aspiring boxer in the amateur ranks?
Whoa, that's a tough question, actually. I think staying consistent is massive. A lot of people join or think that their success is going to happen overnight, and I've been signed by Matchroom for the last 12 months, but even in the professional ranks, my performances I've been putting in big performances since I turned professional for the last 5 years, and I've just been waiting on people to see them. And even going back to that, before in the amateur system, I was coming through the amateur ranks and putting in big performances, and just believing in yourself, staying consistent. It won't always be easy. You won't always want to train. People always say to me, how do you say so motivated? And I say, I'm not always motivated, but I'm always dedicated and I'm always disciplined. And I think staying dedicated, staying consistent is massive for any success, not in just boxing, but for life in general.
Let me get this young man right here. You can talk into the microphone.
Well, will Andy Joshua ever fight Tyson Fury, Eddie?
Oh, I hope so. I mean, you know, Anthony Joshua's really got 2 fights that he wants more than anything. One is Tyson Fury, one is Deontay Wilder. You know, I still say that I know this guy is prepared to fight anyone. He fought Usyk twice, back to back. No one seems to want to jump in with Alexander Usyk. He's a very good fighter, and AJ never even thought about not fighting him. I believe that if AJ fights Deontay Wilder and beats him, it makes the Tyson Fury fight the biggest fight of all time.
All right, who's next? Go ahead.
All right, lads. Sorry, just a quick question. Obviously now that Katie's fighting at a different weight, does anything change? If you were the coach, does anything change strategic-wise going into the fight, or is it the same as she always does?
For Katie? Yeah, I think that Katie's, when she turned pro, I wanted her to start super featherweight, which was 130 pounds. And it was too much for her to cut. And she's always been a solid lightweight. Like, she's never really looked to come down. she's never really looked to go up. She fought for the 140-pound title against Christina Lenartu, who actually beat Alicia Baumgardner previously. Maya was going to fight her, and she weighed in at 140, 141. You know, she was 140 pounds. So I think she's going to be strong and comfortable. Like, she's one of those fighters that doesn't cut a lot of weight, but doesn't put a lot of weight on. And you know, I think weight making's so interesting. Like, there's a big thought process behind a lot of trainers, which is lose a huge amount of weight within a shortest time period and then put it all back on again very quickly. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not an expert, but in my experience, the fighters that have been tougher to beat and stronger with better engines are the guys that actually don't put on 20 pounds after the weigh-in and actually come in and do the weight right, put on 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds, but are fit in the ring rather than ballooning. I remember Carl Froch, you know, he weighed 168 pounds. He went in the ring against George Groves, 170 pounds, 171 pounds, you know, and Katie will weigh 138, 139, and she'll go in the ring 140, 141, you know, I mean.
Cameron's not a huge...
No. She boxed at super feather as well, you know.
So there's not... is this at the championship limit?
Yeah, 140.
It's not a catchweight kind of thing. Wow. Well, respect to Katie.
All the belts. Who's next?
Eddie, back in 2016 when Katie messaged you first about signing, did you think women's boxing could become as big as it has done?
No, I'm going to read that out now, that message that she sent me in 2016, because I've got a funny feeling her brother might have written that. I've got a funny feeling her brother might have written the message because, you know, it was, I was sitting in the office and I watched Katie Taylor win the Olympics in 2012, and the noise at the XL was unbelievable. And I thought about speaking to her then, and then she went to Rio in 2016 and it didn't really work out. And then after that, you know, clearly she was in a position where she wanted to turn professional. And I just had the meeting really out of respect for more than anything. There was no market for women's boxing. There was no real interest from anybody to stage women's fights. And she came over, and that meeting was one that I'll never forget because I sat down and just listened to her and thought, I have to be part of that journey. You know, and I told her one day, you know, she's going to headline Madison Square Garden. She's going to headline in Ireland. I was just talking rubbish, really. And here we are, you know. And it was on 4th of October, 2016.
Have you ever read this verbatim?
Yeah, I believe so. But I like it because it was very complimentary to me.
Oh, okay,
she hasn't really said a lot like that since. But
okay. He wouldn't be reading otherwise.
No, exactly. It says,
let's hear it.
It says, "Hi Eddie, hope you're well. I hope you don't mind me reaching out like this, out of the blue. I've been seriously considering turning pro the last few months. I think I could do for women's pro boxing what I did for the amateur sport, bring it into focus and generate serious interest. I already have a global profile and a great fan base. Of course, the pro game is impossible without a great promoter. If you know anyone, let me know." Oh, no. She said, "So I'm wondering if you would be interested in talking more about this. Much appreciated, Katie." And I wasn't that keen, but I replied about 10 minutes later and said, "Hi, Katie, I'm very interested. What's the best number to reach you on?" And then she flew over with Brian Peters, honestly. And I remember it so vividly. She sat in the chair in front of me. I said, "Tell me what is important in your life." And she said, "Boxing, my family, and my faith." And I was like, you know, and she was so driven. When she left that day, I couldn't stop thinking about what we might be able to achieve. And I think one of the greatest, as we said earlier, Ariel, I mean, now I spend a lot of time in amateur clubs. My two daughters box, one particularly. There are so many young female fighters now in the gyms. I watched an 11-year-old girl the other day spar a 13-year-old girl. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, southpaw, slipping, rolling her head, getting in there, trading. I said to her after, she came out of the ring, I said, "You are unbelievable." She went, "Thank you, boxing's my life." And I thought, wow, an 11-year-old girl telling me that boxing is her life. And I said to her, "Who's your favourite fighter?" I didn't even have to ask her. And she said, "Katie Taylor." But now there's a dozen others that they might say, you know. And I think that the barriers around women's sports, especially with someone with two daughters, is one of my daughters plays football, but there isn't a girls' football team at her school. And if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, "But that's because girls don't play football. They play hockey and netball. Boys play football." And now I look at that and think that's absolutely ridiculous. And Katie's changed the mindset of me. And, you know, when we signed Katie Taylor, my dad said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "What?" I said, "She's unbelievable." He went, "Women don't fight." I said, "All right, watch her." He watched her debut. He was like, "Wow." And when you think women don't fight, why? Everyone should have the opportunity to do it. But to see so many young female fighters now coming through, and it's all because of her. And that's probably, of all the things she's achieved, that's probably her greatest legacy.
It's true because, like, it's not that long ago that female fighting was like, it was a side show. You know, it was a struggle for female fighters to get shows on small cards, to get a fight on a small card. Never mind be main event, and a lot of time co-main event. When Joshua fights, Katie's right beside him. You know, but her rise in the program and her bringing female professional boxing to this prominence, it's coincided with female sport across the board. You know, soccer, whatever sport, rugby and everything else. But I think, you know, you tune into a boxing fight, I'm watching Andy Joshua fight. Who's the comment? Katie Taylor. Look how good she is. Like, it changed. She has changed the consciousness of a lot of people and the perception of female sport, not just boxing, but across the board.
Amen. All right, we'll go with 2 more. Second to last, wherever the microphone is, go ahead. Okay, this young man, let me give you the microphone right here.
Thank you. I have a question for Eddie and for Gary. Eddie, would you ever entertain a Conor McGregor comeback from boxing, and if so, who do you think he'd match up well against?
I had a pint with Conor McGregor down the Black Forge. I've never met a personality like it. I mean, I'm a fan. And when I was talking to him, I was thinking, wow, I can't believe I'm having a pint with Conor McGregor. And 2, you're absolutely mental. But what a great character. What a great promoter. And look, he's back in the event. He's back in Katie. I think I said to Ariel earlier, you know, I think the problem is a lot of these MMA fighters don't have the pedigree. Conor boxed as an amateur. You know, unfortunately for him, he made his boxing debut against Floyd Mayweather, which was a bad choice of opponent, but he didn't do too bad out of it, you know. But if he's going to fight someone, I'd like to see him actually fight someone maybe from the MMA world who can also box a little bit as well. Maybe we were saying about Nate Diaz, you know, in a boxing match. But, you know, I'm not so sure. Like, I'm sure he's made so much money now. Yeah. The desire to fight is something that the true greats. You know, Marvin Hagler once said, "It's very difficult to get up and do your runs when you're wearing silk pajamas." So, and this is where people like Katie Taylor, people like Canelo Alvarez, people like even Anthony Joshua, you know, even Tyson Fury, those kind of people who have achieved more than they've ever dreamed of achieving, yet want it as bad as they've ever wanted it, you know, and that's a true great. That's when you talk about a competitor. And that's what, you know, what Gary said about staying consistent. Consistency is the key to everything in life. Doesn't matter whether it's being a fighter, being a footballer, being a businessman. If you stay consistent and if you do the right things, you will win and you will get results, you know. And I think, you know, Conor McGregor is an unbelievable story. You know, people like Gary Cully are unbelievable stories because they're underdogs, you know, and they see boxing or combat sports as a way out, really, or a passion that they have to make it in life. But when you get there, you remember Canelo Alvarez used to sell ice pops on a street of Guadalajara, right? He's now made, I don't know, 500 million. He's got more belts than Marks and Spencer's. And now, but he still trains with the same intensity, the same passion, and they're the special ones.
Yeah. And Gary, when you go up and win the belt in 135, do you ever think you'll go up in 140 and fight Ryan Garcia?
Yeah, I'll defo move up through the weights. I obviously want to establish myself first at 135 as a lightweight. I started out my career as a lightweight. I want to win my first world title as a lightweight. But my ultimate goal in boxing is to go down as Ireland's greatest fighter ever. I know Carl Frampton won world titles in 2 weights. So to do that, I would have to win 3 weights, which would mean going up to 140 and then up to 147. So, yeah, I mean, 135, obviously I've got my eyes set on first. There's a lot of great fighters in there that I have to beat first, but eventually I see myself going up through the weights. Obviously got the frame, 140, 147. Ryan Garcia is a fight that I'd entertain at 135, 140, 147, wherever it may be. I'd take that fight in a heartbeat, so yeah, defo.
Eddie, you mentioned Hagler and the silk pajamas. It's a famous line, but Canelo often wears silk pajamas, doesn't he? On the airplane and stuff.
Yeah, I wear
Do you think that's a nod to it?
I was going to ask you how you find it getting
I
up
don't
doing
know.
your runs.
Is that a nod to the Hagler reference?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I just find it fascinating that you know that people who come from affluent backgrounds generally don't make it in boxing, right? It's a tough man sport. That's why I admire people like, you know, even Eubank Jr., you know, Conor Benn, these guys that have come from wealth but still have the same passion and outperform people in the gym. But when people like Canelo Alvarez and those guys, it's like AJ. AJ's as dedicated, probably more dedicated now than he was when he first picked up a set of gloves, you know? So what is it, you know, and that shows you what type of person you are, because it's such a horrible, tough, brutal sport. And when you're in there, you know, I watched John Ryder the other day in Guadalajara. After 6 rounds, I'm thinking, I really feel like this kid should be pulled out. He bites down on the gum shield, he comes back in the fight, he wins a few rounds, and, you know, but even Canelo, you know, he's getting busted up, and I'm thinking, how many more of these do you want? And he goes back to the change room, and all he can talk about is the next one. And it's kind of like an addiction. Boxing's a very addictive business. Sometimes one where you go on too long because you love it and you don't know anything else. And maybe that's what scares these people. But to have the passion, you know, at the moment, you're okay. You're so hungry for it. I mean, you want those glasses in 8 different colours. Do you know what I mean? And let me tell you, they're coming real fast, you know?
I actually got another pair as well in a different colour, so you'll see them tomorrow at the presser.
I love that. I wish we could take questions from everyone here. Unfortunately, we don't have time. There is going to be a meet and greet, but now's the tough spot for you, my friend. You have to pick a winner, for the 2 tickets to Saturday's card.
Winner for the fight? Oh,
No. I wouldn't do that to you. You're down the middle. No, I mean, I would say picking a winner for the tickets is probably tougher than that. How do you want to do this? Best question? Someone that...
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. There's 2 people that have caught my eye with their questions. This gentleman here who had 2 great questions, had his hand up the whole time. 2 tickets for you for Saturday night for Katie Taylor. And do you know what? I'm probably going to get told off here. Frank, can we do... I was going to say 2. Can we do 3? 3 pairs? Is that all right? He's looking at me saying...
What's he going to say? Imagine he says no right now.
Yeah.
He's the biggest heel in Dublin.
And one is to this young gentleman down here. All right?
Amazing.
And the other is to this young lady here who asked a very good question as well. Do you box? Okay. If you don't, just say yes. That's great. Okay. So you 3, 2... That's all right? No problem.
Great.
And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Because I like you, you're cheeky. And you said earlier on, all right, Eddie, you were one of the few that didn't boo me. On Saturday, I'm going to make sure we find you, and you're going to come backstage with me, and I'm going to take you around and show you all the fighters. All right?
Wow.
Is that all right, Frank?
The lesson is, suck up to Eddie. Good things happen. Gary, perhaps.
Be nice. Be nice, and I'll be nice.
Exactly. By the way, I'm just curious, was anyone in attendance at the 3 Arena when Conor McGregor fought Diego Brandao and is also planning to attend Saturday? So a couple of you. So that's a pretty damn good story to tell one day. You'll be there when Irish MMA exploded, and you'll be there when perhaps Irish boxing was reborn. Is that a fair thing to say? Thank you so much to everyone who came to hang out with us here. Thank you so much, everyone who's watching around the world. Again, don't forget, live and exclusively, globally, on DAZN this Saturday from the world-famous 3 Arena. It's Katie Taylor moving up to 140 pounds, going up against the undisputed champion, Chantelle Cameron. Can't wait for it. Thank you very much to Andy Lee. Good luck to you, my friend. Can't wait to see what you do as well. Give it up for Gary, who's here. And thank you to Eddie. Good night from Dublin.
But that was on American soil. It's only right to run it back again, don't you think?
The rematch between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano is officially off. As the weeks have unfolded, she's just not going to be ready.
Katie Taylor not fighting and that fight card not happening, we have a problem.
Katie Taylor on her social media.
It's coming from Katie, so there's no excuses can be made now.
And I always said that when Chantelle Cameron racked up the belts, she would be the front runner.
Undisputed champion versus undisputed champion. Both undisputed, both undefeated. no-brainer.
Katie's like, no, we'll dance at 140.
That is a tougher fight than Amanda Serrano for Katie Taylor.
I love it. Sensational.
For the first time in a 4-belt era, 2 reigning undisputed champions will face off against each other.
The Queen of Ireland, she's coming home.
From Naas County, Kildare, Ireland, here's the undefeated diva, Cully.
But this young man is going to be carrying the flag for Irish boxing for a long time.
Sensational stuff from Cully.